What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for another NFL free agency breakdown, giving you my analysis, my reaction to every move from the past weekend. So March 19th to 21st, I'm going to break down the latest signings in the NFL, all the biggest signings in the NFL, and give you my raw reaction to those moves. We just had a couple moves go down actually right before I went live, so we are going to begin with those. But before I do break down this past weekend in the NFL and NFL free agency, make sure as you join to Gronk spike that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos and NFL live streams just like this. Now, I do realize there's been a lot of videos coming out lately, and hopefully you guys have checked those out. Maybe you haven't seen all of them. Maybe you've only seen a few, or maybe you don't even know how to locate them because YouTube hasn't been giving you, the notifications. So make sure you do check the NFL free agency live reactions playlist. Within that playlist, there will be every video that I've done thus far. And you can basically watch whichever ones you like within that playlist. It's just the easiest way that you can find them. Even in this live stream, probably not going to get notified. So if you find this on the channel, that will also, this video itself will probably be located as well in that live reactions playlist. So let's get started here. And let's get to the signings. I also do have some graphics for today, so that's fun. I made some videos earlier, recorded some videos earlier for the next few days coming up. What's up, Monty? He says, let's go. Gronk spiked the like button, so I assume the chat is all good and working. I just assume YouTube probably hasn't been sending out the notifications. But yeah, it is what it is. For those of you that are here, you get to enjoy the live stream before I release all the videos. So yeah, March 19th to 21st, we have quite a few exciting ones. The Rams signing Desean Jackson that just happened. I think Malik Jackson to the Browns, as well as Anthony Walker to the Browns, Anthony Harris to the Eagles. The Texans made a couple more moves. They've been making a ton of moves, man, lately. The Broncos signing Kyle Fuller. The Giants signing Kenny Gallaudet. The Cowboys signing Keanu Neil. I think that's an interesting move. I actually predicted that one. The Jets signing Sheldon Rankins. The Lions signing, or not the Lions, the Bears signing Desmond Trufant. So there's some interesting moves here. Those are most of them that I'm going to go over. And yeah, let's have some fun for those of you that are here. And make sure you do Gronk spike that like button if you are joining me live. Okay. So let's start off with the latest move, which was Desean Jackson to the Los Angeles Rams. I'm actually really excited about this move because I think it's a really good move for the Rams. There we go. Got the lower third up. All right. If you guys can notify the Discord, I'd appreciate that I'm live. I'd appreciate that. All right. So let's kick it off with Desean Jackson going to the Los Angeles Rams. I appear it's just a one-year deal, I think. So let's go. The Los Angeles Rams have signed Matthew Stafford's deep threat, Desean Jackson. You may know him. D-Jax has been one of the NFL's greatest deep threats, I would say, of all time, not just in recent history. If you look at 40-plus yard touchdowns, I'm sure Desean Jackson ranks very high on that list. The question is, how healthy will Desean Jackson be in 2021, and how good is Desean Jackson at his age? It's interesting that he chose the Rams. I feel it's a great fit for him as a football player who's probably chasing a ring at this point in his career. The Rams are a contender in the NFC. The Rams are a team with a lot of hype thanks to getting Matthew Stafford, and I do feel Stafford is a quarterback that would benefit from Desean Jackson's presence, while Desean Jackson would also benefit from the presence of Matthew Stafford at quarterback. So I think it's a really good fit for both sides involved. I think when you look at the Rams offense, Sean McVay needed that guy that could stretch the field. Obviously, they had Brandon Cooks in the past. They let go of Brandon Cooks. A lot of that had to do with his injury history, the concussion concerns, and being able to get a pick in return there. The contract was probably too expensive, so they just couldn't hold on to Brandon Cooks. So last year, they really did without, and they performed without a deep threat. They didn't have anybody that had that speed, that had that game-breaking ability, that had that downfield ability. A lot of it was short passing game. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp underneath, a little bit to Cam Akers and the running backs, a little bit to Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. They had Reynolds, they had Van Jefferson involved in the depth pieces, the number 3, number 4 wide receivers. Those guys will still be involved. Van Jefferson, I think, is going to take a little bit of a larger role on this season. So I look at the Rams and I think Desean Jackson is a piece that you want at this point in his career, where if he's on the field and he can provide a boost to your team, it's great. It's fantastic. But you don't want to have to be relying on him to be like one of your top 2 receivers. So last year when the Eagles signed him, it felt like a good signing. It felt like he could really help that team. But then you realize that Desean Jackson is very unreliable, and when you're having to rely on him, especially at his advanced age, to be a consistent player in your lineup, that's where it can become a little bit challenging and probably not the best thing. So Desean Jackson now with the Rams is not going to have to be the number 1 or the number 2. He's going to be a specific designed wide receiver. He's going to be the downfield, bombs, take the shot wide receiver, and he's going to be the guy that stretches the defense for Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods to work underneath. That means that you can actually keep his reps limited, sparingly using him in big situations or sparingly using him when you need to use him, and correctly utilize what he does best at this point in his career. He can still run, he can still go down the field and make big plays, and still when he was on the field last year, he provided a presence for the Eagles. So Desean Jackson is still a capable wide receiver, and I would look at him as a number 3 wide receiver. A nice downfield target, but you don't want to be relying on him. So that's why I like the landing spot for the Rams, because okay, Van Jefferson can take some heat off of him. They're going to have different receivers with their depth where they don't need to have Desean Jackson on the field all the time. So I really do like this move because it provides a downfield field stretcher for Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay's offense. And it's great for Desean Jackson that he's going to a team that's going to win. They're in the championship window, and he has a chance to chase a ring. So I like it from all perspectives involved here, all parties involved, the team, the quarterback, and the wide receiver. I said when Matthew Stafford was signed that one of the things that I wanted them to get, one of the things I wanted them to acquire was a deep threat. And I believe they have now done that by signing Desean Jackson. So look out for Desean Jackson to have a few big plays every time you watch the Rams. If he can stay healthy, he is going to have an impact for LA in 2021 because that's just what he does when he's on the football field. Rams fans, let me know how you feel Desean Jackson fits with the Rams, and let me know if you're excited to see D-Jax in LA. All right. Desean Jackson in LA. Yeah, YouTube's definitely not notifying anybody today, so that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We move forward. All right, so next we are going to do The Panthers, maybe? Why am I late? I don't understand what Monty's saying. Anyways, continuing forward. What should we do next? Maybe the Browns? Let's do the Browns. They got 2 players here. Malik Jackson and Anthony Walker. What's up, Packers GOAT? What's going on, bro? All right. The Cleveland Browns have added 2 players to their front 7 that will have an immediate impact and play a big role in 2021. Malik Jackson on the defensive line, Super Bowl champion with the Denver Broncos, and linebacker Anthony Walker, both signed to short-term deals that could really help provide a boost to the Cleveland Browns defense. I like these moves a ton. Let's start off with Malik Jackson. Malik Jackson is a football player that has been awesome for like the last 5 years, but a little bit up and down. He was really, really good in his prime with the Denver Broncos, back in 2015, that historic Broncos 2015 defense. He was a big part of that as an interior pass rusher, really destroying interior offensive lines, providing that boost to Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware off the edge. They just had an incredible defense that year. He then moves forward, moves on to Jacksonville, plays pretty good in Jacksonville for a couple of seasons. He's had some issues with staying healthy here and there as well, but was a big part of that defense, not really as an every down player, but more as a pass rushing kind of in the rotation as his age has gotten older, right? As he's gotten older, he's become more of the rotation player and less of the every down player. But he's pretty solid in both facets of the game, whether it's, defending the run or pass rushing. But I always feel like Malik Jackson has been a better pass rusher from the interior than a run stuffer. In Jacksonville, he played more of that pass rushing role while others kind of took the grind approach on the ground, defending the ground game. Then he basically gets booted out of Jacksonville. He goes to Philadelphia. He gets hurt the first year in Philadelphia. He had a down season with Jacksonville the year before, so everybody's kind of up in the air with what Malik Jackson sort of is in 2020. And then in 2020 with the Eagles, he actually has a really good year beside Fletcher Cox. So when I look at Malik Jackson now, last year Malik Jackson played very well, played his best football of the last couple of seasons. So I think that's what the Cleveland Browns are looking at here. He signed a 1-year contract worth about $4.5 million, and he's good as a complement to like the number 1 or number 2 pass rusher on the team. If he's allowed to be in that role, right, he's going to be playing a lot beside Sheldon Richardson. I think that's a nice fit beside Sheldon Richardson. There are some elements of this defense, that he played in Philadelphia. A lot of 4-man fronts. He's going to be one of those defensive tackles in the inside. But you also have enough depth where you don't have to fully rely on him every single down. And I think Cleveland will continue to add depth to that interior defensive line. Of course, they added Tack McKinley all over this offseason already. And then they might look to add somebody else, whether that's Jadeveon Clowney, Olivier Vernon. I could certainly see them adding another veteran on the edge, but I think when it comes to the interior, they're not bad. I just like when teams are able to add almost like 2 lines of defensive lines, like a line change. That's the preferable method of having a strong defensive line, is not necessarily paying a lot of money for one player, although the Browns have done that with Myles Garrett, but just having a lot of solid players that play specific roles. And I think at this point in his career, Malik Jackson is one of those good football players that if you put him in a position where he has to have one specific role and designed role, like being that pass rusher from the interior, he can be very good and productive. And that's what he was for the Eagles last year because he was allowed to be that player, right? The Eagles had Fletcher Cox, they had Javon Hargrave, and Malik Jackson ended up playing that sort of role. Actually, probably playing more than you would have expected, last year in 2020. So he's still a good player, and I think the Browns are getting a nice piece to their defensive line. A veteran that's been there, that's played in big games, and has been productive in those games. Now, the other move that the Cleveland Browns made, which was equally as interesting, fascinating, so to speak, was Anthony Walker of the Indianapolis Colts to the Cleveland Browns. And Anthony Walker signed a 1-year, $3.5 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. Anthony Walker is a little bit less known. He has less notoriety, but he is a player that is just a solid number 2 linebacker for a lot of his years in Indianapolis beside Darius Leonard. And I think he's probably somebody that slipped under the radar because Darius Leonard kind of gains all the attention there in Indianapolis. But I believe, from day one almost, he's going to be the best linebacker on the Browns. When you look at the Browns' weaknesses, their deficiencies, coming into the offseason, I think one of their biggest needs was a linebacker, was somebody that could play every down. And I think Walker can do that. He has been better, in my opinion, versus the run than in coverage, but he is a solid all-around linebacker. He's not going to be a Pro Bowler. He's not going to be an All-Pro, but he is an upgrade from what they had, and they got him on a fairly decent deal here. 1 year, $3.5 million. He fits their scheme quite well. The Seattle-based scheme, a lot of 4-3 type of looks. Walker's played in a similar scheme in Indianapolis, with Matt Eberflus. So he does have some familiarity with the scheme and certain coverages and tasks that you may ask to do in Cleveland. So I like that Cleveland was able to get a player that fits the mold in terms of an athlete, fits the mold in terms of the scheme, and just overall is a solid football player that's going to give them a little bit of a boost at one of their biggest deficiencies. So I like what Cleveland has done. They have gotten better at safety. They've gotten better at corner. They are probably just as good, maybe slightly better on the defensive line, and they are better at linebacker. I would still look for them to add some depth on the defense, whether that is the secondary, the linebacking core, or the defensive line. I could see them adding small pieces, small complementary players at each spot, each level of their defense. But I would expect, right, John Johnson, big upgrade at safety, he's a starter. Troy Hill, starter. Anthony Walker will start. Malik Jackson will play a pretty big role, probably as one of their interior defensive linemen starters. And then Tack McKinley will be like their third man off the edge. So they've made some really nice moves and added some really big time roles to their defense. I'd still look for them to do more, but Walker and Jackson will both have big roles for them on cheap 1-year deals that are going to help their defense just get a little bit better, which is definitely what they needed in 2021. All right. I like the moves by Cleveland. I think Cleveland's one of the few contenders in the AFC that's actually doing some good things. A lot of teams in the AFC have taken a step back, or at least the top teams in the AFC, I would say. So that's Anthony Walker. Who is next? Guys, Gronk spiked that like button if you just joined. Appreciate you guys being here. All right. Let's get some tea. Edward says, do you like the Giants free agency, Cardinals, or the Pats? Are you asking me which one do I like the most, or are you asking me if I like them all? If I had to rank them, I'd go Pats, Giants, Cardinals. I don't mind any of them, though. What's up, Lenny? Caesar says, mark my words, the Browns win the Super Bowl. Ooh, that's a bold take. What's up, Durkant? What's up, Lenny? What's up, Shroom Boom? All right. Who is next? Let's do the Texans. We've got a trade, and we also have Jordan Jenkins signing with the Texans. Okay. The Houston Texans continue to make moves. They continue to add depth to this roster and specifically to this defense. Nick Caserio noticed last year, probably watching the tape, that this defense might have been the worst in football. He continues to add some playmakers to that defense. Jordan Jenkins is another one of those playmakers. Jordan Jenkins has long been a super underrated edge player from the New York Jets. Now, he's not a big-time game changer. He's not going to be a TJ Watt or a Myles Garrett. But Jordan Jenkins is a true starting edge player. If you did a list of the top 64 edge players in the NFL, 2 on each team, Jordan Jenkins would be on that list. And he's been on that list for the last 4 to 5 years. He's put up consistently somewhere around 6 sacks for the past 3 seasons for the New York Jets. And these are the type of players that Nick Caserio has been bargain shopping for. Obviously, Caserio has had a long look at Jordan Jenkins as his team in New England has played the Jets twice a year for the past however long the AFC East has existed. And Nick Caserio knows this player well. So I would think that he knows where he would fit on this defense. Now, looking at the way the defense is going to be built in Houston, you always got to think that this is a new regime, new defense, new scheme, and how would this new player fit in? Because Jordan Jenkins traditionally has played in like a 3-4 defense, right? He's been more of a stand-up outside linebacker, that kind of guy. But I think in Houston now, with more of the Lovie Smith defense, with more of the 4-man fronts, I think Jordan Jenkins is going to be looking at playing more with his hand in the dirt, more as a edge rusher. Now, something that is misconstrued often with NFL fans still to this day is that nickel defense is the primary defense, right? So Jordan Jenkins, it's not like he just stands up, but that's like kind of what the base defense of him and with the Jets has been, whether it's been Todd Bowles coaching him or it's been Greg Williams coaching him. It's primarily what he's been doing, but it's not like he doesn't have experience doing that. He has plenty of experience doing that. So looking at the defensive line now, you actually have, I would say, you lost J.J. Watt. That's something, right? But J.J. Watt's been unreliable for many years to stay on the field. I know he's been a great player, but he has been unreliable. He has been unhealthy. Now, Nick Caserio has not tried to replace J.J. Watt, but he has tried to replace J.J. Watt with 3 or 4 players. So when you actually look at their defensive line now and their pass rush now and their edge rush specifically, it has much more depth and it has a couple layers to it, and I think is actually much better. Of course, you traded for Shaq Lawson, who I think was a quality add. Jordan Jenkins adds another type of player, similar player. So good versus the run, very solid versus the run, but can also contribute as a pass rusher, right? Never been known to put up 10 plus sacks, but is going to contribute 6-ish sacks a year and does set that edge quite well. Him and Lawson are actually pretty similar type of players, I would say. Pretty good size, pretty good strength. Not necessarily the fastest side to side or straight up, straight in a line, but they are solid athletes with really good power, and they will not get run over. So your run defense that was very weak last year will have much better edge setters this season. And they also can contribute a pass rush. But you're still looking at a team that still has Whitney Merciless, right? And you have some other players behind those guys that are solid pass rushers, or at least have shown sparks of being pass rushers. So what I'm looking at here is Nick Caserio saying we got Lawson and we got Jenkins, and maybe they're not the best pass rushers, but first and second down players for sure. And then we can add Whitney Merciless more as a third down specific player, and maybe that will get better pass rush results out of him. So that's what I would be looking for. It also adds more versatility, obviously, and just different ways you can align these players. And maybe, hey, all three of them will be involved in the pass rush set. Maybe a guy like Lawson would move inside in that scenario. So I think the Texans make another very solid move here. Okay, this is a 2-year deal. Chance to make $8 million, but it's more like $6 million. So it's basically $3 million-ish per year. That's pretty good, right? Even this tweet that I just copied says the third round pick has had 10 sacks the last 2 seasons. So expect 5 to 6 sacks this year from Jordan Jenkins, but know that he has primarily been a very solid edge setter for the Jets. If you look at the Jets, part of the reason they haven't been an utter disaster on defense is because of their run defense, and Jordan Jenkins has been part of that. So Jenkins, good, solid, starting football player. Nothing special, but again, along the same lines of what Nick Caserio has been doing. Bargains that can help the team in positions of need. Now, the next trade was a little bit outside of the realm of need. It was more so just maybe a want, or maybe hey, why not? So the Houston Texans traded for Ryan Finley of the Cincinnati Bengals. Actually, way back when Ryan Finley was drafted, I made a video on him saying he was the most underrated quarterback in the draft class. It's interesting, now that Nick Caserio has traded for him, he has not shown to be the most underrated player in the draft class, and I was probably wrong about that, although I don't remember which draft class that was. I want to say it was 2 seasons ago. But this is a kid that's had experience starting in the NFL. He's played probably 5 games, about, just guessing off the top of my head. He started about 5 games for Cincinnati. He beat the Steelers on Monday Night Football, in part due to his ability, to run, actually, surprisingly. But I did like him coming out of college. Part of it was because I thought, he had really refined accuracy, slight mobility. I liked his release quite a bit. I just liked how calm he was in the pocket, like his movement in the pocket, his ability just to throw the football accurately into tight windows. And I did like Ryan Finley coming out of the draft. I think what we've realized now is that he doesn't quite have the physical talent to be a starter, but I think what he does possess is really good backup qualities. And he's quite young still, so he's somebody that you might be able to develop, and why not take a chance on him, right? He's a 6th or 7th round pick that you traded for him. I think it was a swap of picks. But Finley, I've liked him. I liked him when he was drafted. He's shown bits and pieces of promise, but bits and pieces of disaster. So maybe Nick Caserio is looking at him and saying, why not? This guy might be able to be a good backup, or just somebody that we might be able to take a look at here. So, hey, who knows? But I don't mind the trade at all. If there's a quarterback out there that you think maybe hasn't shown his full potential and you want to throw a 7th round pick for him, I never hate that kind of trade. I won't belittle that kind of trade. There's no sense in it. It's a 7th round throwaway pick. Might as well get a young quarterback that's started a few games, that maybe you have a little bit of tape on, that you're like, hey, why the heck not? So Jordan Jenkins, Ryan Finley to the Houston Texans. I think Jordan Jenkins makes them a heck of a lot stronger on the edge, especially versus the run. And Ryan Finley, hey, why not? A young quarterback to take a look at if you're the Texans. Rutgers choked. What's going on, Nick? What's going on, buddy? Who are the remaining free agents from the Browns? Are you talking about on the Browns, or are you talking about that they could sign? Because that's 2 different things. They do have Olivier Vernon, who is a free agent. They released Adrian Claiborne. What's going on, guys? If you're just joining, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. All right, so we're done the Texans. Yo, we got some Texans fans in here. What's going on, man? Is it Zuez? That's probably wrong, but is it Zuez? Who is next? Let's do Anthony Harris. Monty says, hot take, the Browns will have the best record in the NFL. Dakota says, without discussing why, what grade would you give the Broncos? I'll be doing all the free agency grades at some point. Off the top of my head, I would say it would be somewhere between a B and a B+. Somewhere like that, like a B, B+, something like that. I think it's been good for the Broncos. Not great, but good, above average. All right. Anthony Harris is next. He signed a 1-year deal worth $5 million. Okay. Ugh. New chair. I got a new chair. Check it out. Yeah. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles have signed a new free safety. Anthony Harris, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings, will be the ball-hawking free safety for the Philadelphia Eagles for at least this season. A 1-year, $5 million contract for Anthony Harris. This is quite surprising, given that Anthony Harris is a darling of the analytical community, specifically PFF. Anthony Harris has been one of the top-graded free safeties by PFF, specifically, over the past 3 years. So he is somebody that, analytically speaking, has performed quite well. Now, football-wise, I like Anthony Harris. I think he's a real good free safety. I think he lacks a little bit of versatility, but what he does quite well is basically being that single high safety that lurks over the middle of the field, takes away the deep ball, and is really good at making plays on the football when given the opportunity. Anthony Harris isn't as young as some of the other safeties on the market as well, so that could be another reason why he wasn't paid that much. The other reason is we've just seen overall, safeties don't get a lot of money on the open market unless you're really top-notch. Unless you're Justin Simmons, right, you don't get a lot of money on the open market. Even a guy like Marcus May, I believe, was just franchised. So Harris, at his age, who's late 20s, Eagles are looking at him like he could help us right now. We'll see how he looks in our defense. We're trying to reshape, retool our defense a little bit. And then maybe in 2022, if he plays really well this year, we will sign him to more of a long-term contract with him in our building, understanding our defense. We'll see how he fits. Because remember, the Eagles are switching defensive schemes, defensive coordinators, that sort of thing. They're staying fairly similar to the same lineage of their defense, with Schwartz not going too crazy with changing it, but it's a new coordinator. So Harris, I believe, is going to really upgrade a true weakness of the Eagles over the past couple of seasons. They've been weak at safety, right? Malcolm Jenkins was really good a couple years ago for them, but when they won the Super Bowl, since he kind of declined and he left in New Orleans, they haven't been quite as good at safety. They moved Jalen Mills to safety. He left, right, to New England, and he was solid, but he was actually better more towards the line of scrimmage, believe it or not, being a corner than really being a true free safety. So this team has been missing that element to their team for the past couple of years. Just simply a guy that doesn't give up the deep ball, a guy that makes plays, a guy that lurks over the middle of the field. And that is what Harris is going to achieve for the Eagles in 2021. Good deal. I think a steal of a contract. Very solid player that's going to help you right now. When you look at the Eagles defense, Darius Slay at cornerback, Harris at free safety, still a pretty good defensive line. They do have holes, depth at cornerback's a concern, linebacker's a bit of a concern for sure, but I do think Harris does solidify the free safety spot, does help them a ton at safety, and does probably make their secondary overall better because now they have really good corner if you can get better play out of Slay this year than last, and you have a really probably at least top half of the league, maybe top 10 free safety. So Anthony Harris to the Eagles, I like this move. The question is really, what are the Eagles trying to achieve? Signing a player like this to a 1-year deal, is this really what the Eagles should be doing, or should they be looking to rebuild? Or that's really the one that shocked me when I saw this, because this was more of a move if you were going all in, if you were looking to win now. And I think the Eagles want to remain competitive, but they are kind of more so on the rebuilding track than on the go all in track for sure. So Eagles fans, let me know kind of what you think. It's kind of, you're stuck in the middle. You got a really good player here for a pretty good bargain, but is that really what you should be doing? Or should you be trying to, try to build players through the draft, build a younger nucleus? Let me know in the comment section below. All right. Did I discuss Philip Lindsay already? I don't remember, man. Did I do Philip Lindsay? Last video? Man, I've done so many I don't even remember. I honestly don't even remember if I did Philip Lindsay. If I didn't, I'll do it though. Oh, right. I did forget Philip Lindsay. Good point. I had him here on my notes. I forgot to talk about him, though. He's right in the middle. He's stuck in between all these notes. Yeah, I'll talk about Philip Lindsay. I didn't make a graphic either. That's also what threw me off. So let me make the graphic real quick, and I'll do it. Did I talk about Desean Jackson? I did at the very beginning. First guy I did. Yeah, let me make this graphic real quick, and then I'll do Philip Lindsay. You guys are witnessing live. I thought I might have done it last video, but I think it happened after that. I didn't do it, though. I wouldn't have put it in my notes if I had already done it. All right, so Lindsay. Oh, I did make a graphic. I didn't save it. Damn. All right. Caesar says, I think the football team will make the playoffs with Fitz. They could if they win the division. All right, you guys see it? Let's do Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay. I don't know. How did he do last year? I'm going to look at his stats real quick. I wanted New England to sign him, to be honest. He had 500 yards last year in 11 games, 4.3 yards per carry. Okay. The Houston Texans have also signed a game-changing, big play running back, Philip Lindsay. This is a former Pro Bowl running back, guys. Philip Lindsay, through his first 2 seasons, was one of the more productive on-the-ground running backs in the NFL. He's now going to mix in with David Johnson and Mark Ingram as a part of this backfield. So now you have a receiving back with some power, a power back, and a speed back. I like this trio in Houston. You have a mix of a little bit of everything here in that Texans backfield, and it should make, as long as he's good to go, Deshaun Watson pretty happy to have a trio of backs that he can rely on in that backfield. But Philip Lindsay is somebody that I have always liked because he's smaller in stature, but man, he plays hard. He does not go down on first contact. he hits a hole very hard and he is gone. When he sees just a little bit of space, he's got game-changing speed. The question with Phillip Lindsay is, already at his young age, is he already starting to wear down? Is he already starting to slow down? Because he did miss a few games last year, only playing 11. He had about 500 yards, 4.3 yards per carry. So it was a less productive season in Denver than he had in the first and second season. Do remember, Melvin Gordon was also there to take away some of his touches. So Lindsay, in an offense with a couple other backs, it might be good for him, right? Because he won't have to take the full load of carries and you can keep him fresh. And the main thing with Phillip Lindsay here is you need to keep him fresh because his speed is really what separates him as a very good running back. When he sees it, he hits it, and he can make you pay. So that combination of having David Johnson, Mark Ingram, and Phillip Lindsay might come in handy. And I do believe as long as he's healthy, he can still play. He's not the greatest pass catcher. I know a lot of people think he is, okay? He can catch the ball. He's good in the screen game. He's not necessarily like the greatest route runner or the greatest hands in the world. Like, he's okay. I think more so, it's not like he's a great pass blocker. I think you'll be surprised. David Johnson is probably going to remain that guy because I think David Johnson is really good still as a receiver because he used to be a receiver. And that kind of is how he became, this elite do-it-all running back when he was in his prime. So I think David Johnson will remain as like the pass catcher, the third down guy, the pass blocker. I think Phillip Lindsay will be in the screen game a little bit, in the backfield to run the football between the 20s. And I think Mark Ingram will be the sledgehammer, short yardage, and red zone back. I think that's kind of the way that I would divide the roles. But I've always been a fan of Phillip Lindsay because I just love his style. I love the way that he plays with power and speed. And he can kind of, rather make you miss, simply outrun you, or sometimes even run you over because he's so low to the ground. His balance and his ability to just be able to get off blocks and get off tacklers is really, really impressive for his size. So I think you're really going to like Phillip Lindsay. He's a solid football player, very fun to watch. And as long as he's healthy, he's going to be an underrated snag for this football team and help their ground game. The deal overall for Phillip Lindsay was just about what the tender would have been if he was tendered by Denver. So I found that part fairly fascinating. Phillip Lindsay got a 1-year, $3.25 million that guarantees $1 million. So he'll certainly have a role for this team, but understand that this could be a boom or bust move, right? It's not going to be a bust in terms of the money because it's not a lot of money, but it could be a bust in terms of Phillip Lindsay's body might start to deteriorate quicker than you think because of all the carries he did take in college as well as in his first 2 seasons. So the boom is obviously there for Phillip Lindsay to return to Pro Bowl form, but the bust is also there because we saw a glimpse of it last year. His speed, the health, those sort of things might be weighing on him just a little bit. So I'm hoping for the best of Phillip Lindsay in Houston, but there is certainly downside, which is why Denver didn't retain him. Let me know, Broncos fans, how you feel about losing Phillip Lindsay, and let me know, Texans fans, how you feel about gaining Phillip Lindsay in 2021. All right. I just wanted to check his stats so I could use it for conversation. What is next? The Broncos or Dan Arnold to the Panthers? We got Dan Arnold. I wish I knew how to say this guy's name. Bro, I've seen this guy play for years, and I still don't really know how to pronounce his name. Is it Jeremiah Otochu? Otochu? The guy that Nick Gill's team signed. Still got to do Kenny Gallaudet. Got to do Keanu Neil. Got to do Sheldon Rankins. I want to do Trufant and Otochu. Let's do... Yeah, those are the main ones. Okay, we'll do Dan Arnold first. 31 catches, 438 yards, 4 touchdowns. Felt like it was less than that. What do I think of the Patriots signings? I love them. Love them. All right, let's do Dan Arnold to the Panthers. The Carolina Panthers have quietly added a new starting tight end in Dan Arnold. Dan Arnold last season had his best season of his career playing with the Arizona Cardinals, catching over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns in Arizona with Kyler Murray in the Cliff Kingsbury offense. Now he goes to Carolina to be their starting tight end, reuniting with Joe Brady. Okay, this is a 2-year, $6 million deal. Very affordable for a starting tight end who I think is underrated. When I discussed the tight end crop of players in free agency, I talked about Dan Arnold being one of the more underrated players out there. I think he's not an extremely explosive athlete, but he is a very crafty route runner. He gets open. He has solid hands. Pretty good overall, contested catches, leaping ability, all that sort of stuff. I think Dan Arnold has been slightly underrated over the last couple of years, and I think Arizona saw something in him, which is why he became kind of their starter. And I think also Carolina sees something in him. He'll know the offense quite well because of his days in New Orleans where he was buried on the depth chart. Dan Arnold is a good player, a good tight end that I think will just provide a nice little boost to this position for Carolina. They didn't really have much at the tight end position last year. They haven't really had much at tight end since they let go of Greg Olsen. And I think now they'll at least have somebody that's reliable, that can make some plays on third down, that can work in the middle of the field for Teddy Bridgewater or whoever the quarterback's going to be in 2021. But it's a nice little complement to what they already have in Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. They have added David Moore as well as a field stretcher, as a contested catch guy. I think Dan Arnold will be and work in that intermediate to short range as their tight end now. So look out for Dan Arnold. Look out for this guy on Sundays. He is an underrated baller that I think will help the Panthers offense and will maybe add a little bit more in terms of versatility and just different things that you can do with the personnel packages in Carolina. So he was one of my underrated tight end targets, and he lands in Carolina. Panthers fans, let me know what you think of Dan Arnold going to the Panthers. Do you think this is a nice addition to this offense? Or are you not a fan of what Arnold brings to Carolina? Let me know in the comment section below. And let me know what you're thinking about these Panther free agency acquisitions. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace. All right. I just did Anthony Harris, man. Sorry. But I like it. I think it's solid. It's interesting because it's really the only move the Eagles have made, and I'm not sure what direction they're going in here, but it's certainly a good player for a solid price that helps them. So from that standpoint, it's a good move. Bye, Monty. You're leaving? All right. Who's next? Broncos. Oh, did I forgot to put the graphic up? Oh, well. Whatever. Next, we've got Keanu Neil, Kyle Fuller. We did Anthony Harris, so let's put that up there. Kenny Gallaudet. No, I was just ending the video. Remember, I release these as separate videos, so that's why I said peace. Usually I don't, but who do you guys want? Gallaudet, Neil, Fuller. Thanks for the dislike. What else? Trufant. I didn't make a Rankins one either. I talk about the Patriots enough. Damn, no one wants to weigh in here. Okay. So I'll do I have a Fuller one? Yes. Okay, I'll do Fuller. Do I play Madden? Somewhat. I like Madden, yeah. Haven't been playing it as much lately, though. All right, let's do Kyle Fuller. A lot of Patriots bias going on. Thanks for another dislike. Appreciate it. Keep Gronk spiking that dislike button. All right, Kyle Fuller. He only had one pick last year. What's going on, Nick? What's going on with that, Nick? He did have a better year last year, though, for sure. Okay. The Denver Broncos are solidifying their secondary. They are solidifying their cornerback group with Kyle Fuller, who is returning to play with his old defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio. The main weakness of the Denver Broncos defense in 2020 was their cornerback play. Not only did they just not have a lot of talent, but they also had a lot of injuries. Now in 2021, their main priority in free agency has been signing talent at the corner position. They now have one of the best trios in the NFL when you look at it. They signed Ronald Darby already this offseason that I thought was an underrated ad who played very well in Washington last year. They have Bryce Callahan, who's one of the best nickel corners in the NFL. And now they have another guy from Chicago who is Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller has been a Pro Bowler 2 of the last 3 years. He was an All-Pro in 2018. And I didn't really think he deserved to be a Pro Bowler in 2019 as he did have a down year. He allowed a 70% completion percentage on the year. But he played a lot better in 2020 in my opinion. The lone year that he wasn't a Pro Bowler. So it's interesting. But he allowed under a 90 passer rating. He allowed just a 55% completion percentage. So he is a good corner. We've seen him play in a majority of different defenses and coverages, but of course he's played at his best with Vic Fangio. So a lot of what Vic Fangio likes to do, his primary coverage of choice is quarters defense. And I think that's what he's going to be doing in Denver a lot of the time. And I think that it's an obvious fit. He has recognition with the defense. He has a very just good understanding of the concepts and what he's expecting. And I think he provides probably a number 1 corner. You know, I don't think he's like a top 10 corner, but he's probably a top 20 corner in the NFL. So that's good, right? If you're looking at it from Denver's perspective, they haven't had great corner play really since like Chris Harris and Aqib Talib were in their prime. And then Chris Harris left them last year, and Aqib Talib obviously, you know, left them long ago. And they've been searching to regain that depth in the corners since that point. And I think finally they have their best cornerback group and depth chart since that time. And you look at how they're going to be able to pair their coverage with their pass rush in 2021, and you have to think that the Broncos are going to be one of the best defenses in the NFL in 2021. If Von Miller is staying, which it appears he is after the restructure, Bradley Chubb can get healthy, and you re-sign Shelby Harris, you already had a good defensive front that's strong versus the run. You get that pass rusher back in Von Miller. As good as he might be anymore, we're not quite sure. You retain Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, not really sure what's going on there. But overall, the Broncos pretty much have no holes on defense. They've got a strong pass rush, a strong run defense, a much better cornerback group, a much better coverage unit. And I'm looking at Denver as an elite defense in 2021 after these moves that they've made this offseason. Fuller, good number 1 corner who's capable of taking on number 1 wide receivers. He's not a shutdown man-to-man player. He is comfortable more in zone coverage, but he is very good in that role, and he will be very productive for this team. I would expect borderline Pro Bowl level play with Vic Fangio's defense in 2021 from Fuller. So now you have your number 1 corner, your number 2 corner in Darby, and your nickel corner in Bryce Callahan. Remember, I did ask the question, was Darby going to be the number 1? Because I wasn't super comfortable in that. But as a number 2, now I'm much more confident. So now you have, you know, not necessarily elite perimeter corners, but very good perimeter corners and a very good nickel corner. So that's just awesome. I really like the way the Broncos are building this team. If you look at it, you're a quarterback away from being a legitimate team, a legitimate contender, a legitimate threat in the AFC. A quarterback away. You don't have that many holes anymore. You've done what you can. You've built a solid team. Broncos fans, let me know how you feel. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel the Broncos are just a quarterback away, or do you think there are other elements of this roster that they need to add? Also, let me know what you think of Kyle Fuller in Denver. Dallas Goedert spiked the like button. That's disgusting. Yo, Monty threw a pick 6 to a defensive lineman. Kenny Gallaudet and Keanu Neil are next, then Sheldon Rankins. You guys have any questions or anything? I'm willing to answer if you have any. Durkant is a liar. Don't trust him. What's up, Matt? How many wins do you think the Jets get in Madden or in real life? Kenny Gallaudet, that's coming up, bro. It's coming up. Gronk spiked that like button, guys. What was I going to do? Oh, yeah, Sheldon Rankins. I was going to make a Sheldon Rankins graphic. So let's do that quick. How do you see Atlanta going into the draft? Well, they haven't really changed much. I think they could use some defensive linemen for sure. You see. They could use a pass rusher. They could use... I know they spent capital on it already in the last couple of years, but corners, especially nickel corner, which right now is vacated. Offensive line-wise, interior, They could use upgrade there. They're good at receiver. They're good at tight end. I think they've got their tackles that they want in McGarry and in Matthews. Obviously, Matt Ryan could use a running back in the draft too. I think they will start to sign some of the lower end free agents to fill some of their depth needs, but I would look for them in the draft to address probably defensive line, front seven, and maybe offensive line in the first couple of rounds. That's probably what I look for. I'm not certain, though. I mean, they could go a lot of different ways with their pick. I wouldn't mind it if they actually traded back. I don't know if I would necessarily be a fan of them taking a QB, though. I know that's been floated out there, but I don't necessarily know yet if I'd be a fan of that. Because this is just my take with Atlanta, but I do think that Arthur Smith feels... Oh, that's my Philip Lindsay graphic. I do think Arthur Smith feels that they can win with Matt Ryan for the next year or two. So I'd be trying to do that for now, but I don't know. They're not necessarily an easy team to figure out right now. I've been a little surprised with how quiet they've been despite them being in a little bit of cap trouble. I thought they would be a little bit more active because they have a new head coach and a new GM. So usually those teams are a little bit more active. I guess not. Okay, let's do Sheldon Rankins, and then we'll do Gallaudet, Neil, and then maybe the Bears. All right, let's go. If you guys are just joining, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. Okay, Sheldon Rankins. Let's just check out his stats real quick. Just gives me some context. He was hurt last year again, wasn't he? He was. 12 games. 1.5 sacks. Okay. Jasmine, you got to get those notifications. Oh, there's a funny video, by the way, on Twitter. A guy made that I work with in my internship. And the video is me saying, what am I saying? I was like, something about me going live, and then there's a clip of me saying that Jasmine loves me in the video. It was pretty funny. Anyways, let's talk about Sheldon Rankins. The New York Jets have signed a big man in the middle of their defense and added another layer of depth to the interior defensive line. The Jets already had a pretty impressive interior defensive line led by Quinnen Williams, but they are adding another big man with pretty good history. That's Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins, formerly a high draft pick of the New Orleans Saints, has been a very productive run stuffer for the Saints the past few seasons. Last year, he was a bit beat up, only played 12 games. He's not known for his pass rushing prowess, only 1.5 sacks, but what he does provide is a really good run stuffer. Big, powerful guy in the middle of a defense. And the Saints have consistently, over the past 3 to 4 years, been one of the best, if not the best, run defense in the NFL. Big reason for that has been Sheldon Rankins. I think when you look at Douglas and Robert Saleh, what they like is they like big dudes. They like big people on the offensive line and the defensive line. And I think a fundamental aspect of what they believe in is toughness, power on the offensive and defensive lines. And investing in Sheldon Rankins makes some sense because with the scheme change in New York, losing a guy like Henry Anderson and some of those depth interior guys that you have lost, it does make sense because Rankins has been successful in this kind of front with New Orleans and has been one of the premier run stuffers in the NFL. So it makes a lot of sense to take some pressure off Quinnen Williams, to take some pressure off of these younger interior pass rush types, Franklin Myers, these kind of guys. It makes sense. Also, Carl Lawson coming off the edge. I think one of the biggest priorities for the Jets was, let's get better on the offensive and defensive lines. And I think we've seen that, specifically on the defensive line. Huge thing here is, with the Seattle scheme defense that Robert Sala's sure to bring to the Jets, it's very important to have a great defensive line. It is extremely important. I know they've been known for the Legion of Boom, but that's always been a mirage. It's always been about how good their pass rush has been with 4, how good they can stop the run. And that is what the Jets are looking to build now. And I think that's why they bring in Sheldon Rankins. Now, the deal here is 2 years, $17 million, up to $17 million. It does feel a bit expensive, in my opinion. If he can stay healthy, though, I feel it will be worth it. I feel part of the reason he did get as much money as he got is because he was a 12th overall pick in 2016. So with the high draft price, the high draft stock, the memory of him being this high draft pick, and the elite play he has shown in some seasons, it does somewhat make sense the price he got. I would have preferred to maybe go after somebody that a little bit less money, but I get it. Like, when you're analyzing these things, you have to balance everything. And I think Rankins is a good fit. I think Rankins is going to help them versus the run. He's going to help their depth, and he's going to make them a better defensive line and therefore a better defense. At the same time, is he slightly overpaid? Yeah. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you Jets fans think. Do you think this Sheldon Rankins investment was the right investment? Would you have preferred maybe putting this money to the edge pass rush or maybe into the secondary? That's definitely a question to be asked. But given how much money the Jets have, they really don't have to sway either way. They can kind of afford everything. So Jets fans, let me know what you think of Sheldon Rankins to New York. What's going on? Luca, my man. We just interviewed Luca for a project we're doing at school, myself and John of Hot Take Hockey. Luca is a GOAT, an OG, so to speak. What's going on, man? Jasmine liked that one. Yeah, I think part of the reason people aren't getting notifications is because I've released literally 16 videos in the last day. So YouTube stops notifying people after a certain point. All right. So we have Kenny Gallaudet and Keanu Neil to do those. We have to do those. And maybe we'll finish with the Bears. Landon says, what record are the Seahawks going to get? I would say probably that's a tough question right now. I would look at them as like a 9-7, 10-6 team. I think they've lost quite a bit this offseason, especially defensively, which has me concerned. And I think the Russell Wilson news and rumors have kind of fogged my judgment of the team overall. So I'd look at them as like a borderline playoff team right now, honestly, given how tough their division is. But that's just my opinion. Okay. We will do... Who's next? Keanu Neil next. We're going to finish with Kenny Gallaudet. That's the main event. The main event's Kenny Gallaudet. Okay, so Keanu Neil. Let's check. I think Keanu Neil actually played the whole season last year. I think he played 16 games. No, I played 15. I was close. Because the last 2 seasons he played 3-1. So, he had 100 tackles. Okay. Okay, sir. Okay, Keanu. I see you. Any news on the Texans signing a wide receiver and corner? Not recently. I don't hate their corner group anymore, though. They signed Desmond King. I thought that was a nice signing. Where is this? I'm trying to check. Okay. 74. All right. Interesting. Keanu Neil. Yes, he did. He signed with the Cowboys. Okay. The Dallas Cowboys have signed Keanu Neil, who is reuniting with his old coach, Dan Quinn, from the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, Quinn is the new Cowboys defensive coordinator, bringing that scheme to Dallas. And he's also bringing his strong safety, Keanu Neil. The question is Keanu Neil going to play strong safety, or is he going to play linebacker? Personally, I believe he's going to play both. I think in some formations, he'll play more of a traditional in-box strong safety, and in other formations, he'll play linebacker, probably weak side linebacker. If they go more base personnel, I think Neil will become that third linebacker. So Neil is a player I've always loved. I've absolutely loved Keanu Neil. Part of that is because he is kind of a throwback player. He's kind of a throwback strong safety. The man hits like a hammer. Like, he's probably one of the biggest hitters in the NFL. When he lays a hit on a man in the open field, he can absolutely pop him. And that's why in the first 2 seasons of his career, he had the most forced fumbles in the NFL through those first 2 seasons. He was a big part of the Atlanta Falcons 2016 team and also 2017 defense, and has been a part of this scheme, playing as sort of the new Cam Chancellor for the Atlanta Falcons over these past few years. The problem with Keanu Neil, and the reason he's only getting a 1-year, $3 million deal here in Dallas, is because of the injuries. He's only played 4 games in the past 2018, 2019. Then in 2020, last year, he played 15 games. So he's played 19 games in the past 3 years. In the past 2 years before last year, he played 4 games. So his injury history has been a massive concern. When he's on the field, he has been one of the better true strong safeties in the NFL. His ability to play the run, his ability to man up on tight ends, right? To cause turnovers, to make plays, to lay big hits in the box, to shed blockers, to get to that running back. He's a force over the middle of the field. And because he's a force over the middle of the field, because he plays such a physical style, it's taken a toll on his body, and that is why he has been hurt. Here's the thing. This could be an absolute boom move, and it's very little risk. Because only 1 year, $3 million. I mean, and you could potentially be getting one of the best true strong safeties who has an ability to come in the box and play like a linebacker, who's going to be an every down player for you. That to me is the definition of a steal, because he's going to impact your defense in a multitude of ways. Coverage, run defense, causing actual turnovers and big plays. He had 100 tackles for Atlanta last year in 15 games. He's very active. You're going to notice him on the football field. And I think Cowboys fans are really going to like the way he plays, because he plays with a reckless abandon that every football fan loves to watch. It's just, can he kind of rein that in just a little bit? Can he be a little bit smarter to the point where he can continue to just stay on the field? Because the defense is going to need him to stay on the field. But the way that I see him playing is first, second down, probably playing a primary strong safety kind of in the box role. Then on third down, he's going to move more to like money backer or sub backer and play coverage on the tight ends and the running backs of the world. So it's going to be fascinating to see how the Cowboys rotate him, Van Der Esch, and Jalen Smith within their defense. And we know that Van Der Esch, without him, the defense has very much struggled in the middle. So this, in a way, does cover you for that. But I'd look for Dallas to continue to add to the safety position, probably add more free safety types, more coverage types to take the pressure off Keanu Neil when Keanu Neil does become more of the linebacker role. So Yeah, I love this move. I think it's low risk, high reward. I think you're getting an excellent player when he's on the field, and he obviously has familiarity with your coach, with your defensive coordinator, and with your scheme. So, love this move for the Dallas Cowboys. I actually predicted it to happen, and I don't predict anything that I don't absolutely love. So, there you go. Keanu Neil to the Cowboys. Yeah, the Cowboys, DJD. Jasmine said we're not going 9-7. Okay, explain. Tell me why you're not going 9-7. All right, the G-Men with Kenny Gallaudet. Gallaudet. Brent, what happened, Brent? Texans got Moncrief. Yeah, I talked about that in a video already. I posted it. Jeremiah Otochu had 5 sacks last year. I remember looking at his... I was impressed by his advanced stats when I looked at it. Maybe Nick got a good player here. Did I do Desean Jackson? I did. Guys, let's try to get to 30 likes if we can. Okay. So, next we got Kenny Gallaudet. How many games did Gallaudet play last year? Like 5? Yeah, he did play 5. Okay. Gallaudet. All right. Enough of that. The New York Giants have their alpha wide receiver, their number 1 target for Danny Dimes. His name is Kenny Gallaudet. Kenny Gallaudet is one of the premier receivers in the NFL when it comes to going down the football field and snatching that rock out of the air. He's one of the NFL's best contested catch wide receivers in the league. 2 seasons ago with Matthew Stafford throwing him the football, he had the 2nd most deep yards in the NFL. This past season, he did deal with injuries, only 5 games played, but was productive in those 5 games. And here's the thing with Kenny Gallaudet. You have seen the difference in the Detroit Lions when he plays and he does not play. They were an utter disaster when he did not play last year, but when they played, and when he played with Matthew Stafford, the Lions were actually a solid team. They were winning just as many games as they were losing. So that tells you how valuable Kenny Gallaudet was for the Lions, and the Giants are hoping he can be that valuable for them. The Giants used to have a big wide receiver. He was about 6'5". He won a Super Bowl, and he destroyed my absolute dreams in 2007. That guy's name was Plaxico Burris. Plaxico Burris was a big part of Eli Manning's progression as a quarterback. And I think that's what Kenny Gallaudet could be for Daniel Jones. I've been a fan of Daniel Jones really since he came into the NFL. I wasn't super high on him coming out of the draft, as many were not, and I will totally say that I wasn't, and I'll totally accept that. he's still not proven that he can be an elite quarterback or be a franchise quarterback even, but he has shown enough flashes for me to say that if he were given a guy like Kenny Gallaudet, he could take that jump. He could take that step into being what the Giants drafted him to be, and that's their franchise guy. And I look at Daniel Jones now with the weapons that surround him in New York, Saquon Barkley out of the backfield coming back and hopefully 100% and healthy. When he's healthy, he's probably the most talented running back in all of football. You now have Kenny Gallaudet as your number one, Sterling Shepard as your solid slot, intermediate, short, wide receiver. Darius Slayton is a good deep threat at number 2. And you have Evan Ingram and Kyle Rudolph at tight end. That's a very solid group of targets. One of the best groups of targets in the NFL now with Kenny Gallaudet. You have a true number 1, a pretty good number 2 who's a threat to a defense down the field, a complementary underneath receiver, a dynamic, speedy, athletic tight end with an inline tight end in Kyle Rudolph, and a great running back. Now, the offensive line isn't really necessarily great, so you do need to work on that, and I expect them to in the draft. But I look at this offense, and they have a very high ceiling. Jason Garrett, this is something to remember with Jason Garrett. He primarily called the plays and formed the offense around Dez Bryant in Dallas. And when I look at Kenny Gallaudet, he's very similar to Dez Bryant. Both receivers are fairly physical. You're big, long arms and big hands, and guys that are more contested receivers than separation receivers, right? Kenny Gallaudet is never really open, but he's always open, if that makes sense. So if you throw it in the vicinity, he's got a chance to catch it. He turns 50-50 balls into 70-30 balls. That's what Kenny Gallaudet is. He's not going to wow you with his route running. It's going to be totally different from Odell, right? For you Giants fans, Odell is like always open. He creates separation with his quickness and his route running. Gallaudet doesn't really create separation. And that might be a good type of receiver for Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones is a risky type of quarterback. Like, he'll take shots. That's why he's a good downfield passer, because he's willing to throw it to these guys in tight windows, and he can make those throws. Daniel Jones last year was one of the better downfield throwers in the league, and I believe with Kenny Gallaudet, who's one of the better downfield wide receivers, that will only get better for him, maybe in a way that Stephon Diggs multiplied Josh Allen's ability. There could be something to be said there. So I just look at it and I feel now that you have that true number 1, it takes the pressure off of every other receiver, every other playmaker in this offense. It takes less pressure off Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Hopefully we can keep him healthy. And now you have a true offense that can beat you in a number of ways, in a number of personnel packages, right? You could go 2 tight ends, you could have 3 receivers, you could have 4 receivers, you could have 3 receivers, a tight end, and a running back. So you could do a lot of different things here within this offense to make Daniel Jones successful. And I think Kenny Gallaudet could be that answer to getting the best Daniel Jones we have yet to see and allowing him to take that next step. The Giants aren't too far away from being a very competitive NFC team. If Daniel Jones can take that step forward, their defense can maintain their level of play, and they just get better offensive line play overall, this team can actually take a massive step forward and surprise a lot of people in 2021. Kenny Gallaudet is an excellent receiver. I understand you gave him a lot of money, right? The contract was a ridiculous contract, right? It was a pretty big contract. The exact numbers were 4 years, $72 million, up to $76 million. It included $40 million guaranteed. It's about $18 million a year. I actually think that on a normal year, in a normal free agency, with the cap not going down, he would have gotten 20 plus million. So that's something to consider, right? He's making about 18 annually, but I think he would have made about 20 annually if the cap was where it's situated last year or possibly next year. So this might have actually been a little bit of a bargain on that end of things in terms of the money. So I'm expecting big things out of Daniel Jones. I'm expecting big things out of Kenny Gallaudet in 2021. As long as Gallaudet can get back to form in terms of his health, he will provide a massive boost, and the boost that this offense truly needed. All right. Danny Dimes. Okay, last one here with the Bears. The Bears. I got all the big ones out of the way. The Bears. We got Desmond Trufant, Jeremiah Otochu. Otochu? Bro. Angelo Blackson. If there's any other ones you guys want me to quickly cover, like there's Jacob Hollister to the Bills. I like that move. Riley Reif to the Bengals. I thought that was a solid acquisition. Ode Abushi to the Chargers. I like that move as well as a guard for them. Kevin Johnson to the Titans. Not a bad signing. Let's check out the comments. What are you guys saying? He left Denver. What do you think? Who are my top 5 teams for 2021? Patriots, 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 and Patriots. How about that list? Coach says, G-Man dynamic offense. Okay, Jasmine gave me a response here. What do we got? Seahawks clearly only want to be in shootouts. The OC is going to add some dimension to the offense. Russ will have something to prove this year. I think we get better at tight end. We got better at tight end. We're not going 9-7. Okay. I mean, I don't necessarily agree, but I understand your reasoning. EJ says, hope AB stays with the Bucks. I think he will. JNA says, pick for the Super Bowl matchup. I don't want to give that away right now. I don't even know, to be honest. I haven't even thought about that yet. But I will be ranking every team after free agency pretty shortly. So, I know you guys like those. You guys like those vids. Steeler Nation has Bills Bucks. Sounds like Mitch Malani in 2020. Okay, let's do the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have signed 3 defenders to help boost their defense in 2021. Now, they have released some players that help them on defense, like Kyle Fuller, but they've also looked to replace them with cheaper alternatives. We have Jeremiah Otochu of the Denver Broncos. I believe that's how you say his last name. Desmond Trufant of the Detroit Lions, and also Angelo Blackson of the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to discuss all 3 of those players in this video and what I think they bring to the Chicago defense. So first, Jeremiah Otochu here actually had his best season of his career last year with the Denver Broncos. He was expected to play more as the 3rd player in the rotation off the edge for Denver, but Von Miller got hurt before the season began last year, and he actually became their primary edge rusher, with Chubb also being a little bit in and out of the lineup. So he played a bigger role than you would expect in Denver. And I've always liked his upside from an athletic standpoint, dating way back early in his career, but he had his best season, most productive pass rushing season last year. If you look at his advanced stats, he put up his most pressures. If you look at his sacks, he put up his most sacks. I believe 4.5 sacks, pretty good pressure numbers, pretty good production play to play, but that's kind of more what he is. He's more of a pass rusher. He's got good speed, good quickness, a good athletic profile, and I think he does fit the scheme and the defense of Chicago. When you look at it, it makes sense to take an edge rusher from Denver and put him in Chicago because they play the same defense, right? When you look at it, Denver has Vic Fangio and Chicago has Chuck Pagano. The reason Chuck Pagano was hired in Chicago was to play as close of a defense to Vic Fangio as humanly possible. So when you look at it, there's a lot of transferable things there. That's why again, Fuller signed with Denver, and there's just crossover that's easy for the players to transfer, easy for them to fit within scheme to scheme. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, Chicago needed a little bit of boost at their second pass rushing spot. Robert Quinn was a disappointment last year. They gave him big money. He'll still be in the mix most likely, but I think Otochu will bring them a little bit more of a pass rushing presence to their team that they did need outside of just Khalil Mack. Now, there was another move they made here to the defensive front, which was Angelo Blackson. Angelo Blackson's a little-known player from Arizona, a nose tackle. I believe he had 2.5 sacks a year ago. He is a big nose tackle, just run stuffer, that kind of guy. He initially played in Houston, I believe was drafted by Houston, and then moved from Houston to Arizona, where he shifted more to a nose tackle role as opposed to more of a 3-4 end type role. So what I'm looking for here probably is just a replacement to Roy Robertson Harris, who they lost to Jacksonville and they weren't willing to pay for. So I think Blackson will probably take that role unless they do move off of Akeem Hicks and they maybe are looking for more of him to replace that guy. So I think either way, they needed some depth on the interior of the defensive line because that's been a fundamental piece to what they've done in Chicago and what they've been so good at and why they've been successful defensively. And I think Angelo Blackson just adds another layer to that. Don't expect a pass rushing extraordinaire. He is more of a big-bodied run stuffer that can play nose, can mix it up in the inside, and is still, I think he's about mid-20s. So a nice replacement for a depth defensive lineman. Now, the final move here was the replacement for Kyle Fuller, which I believe happened before they released Kyle Fuller. I could be wrong there, but I believe it did happen before they released Fuller, who then ended up signing with Denver. That was Desmond Trufant. Desmond Trufant never really, I believe, played in a defense that has been close to Chuck Pagano's defense. So what I will say about Desmond Trufant is he's been very inconsistent. There's been times he's played well. There's been other times he's played not so well. He shifted from a cover 3 press style of defense in Atlanta with the Seattle scheme of Dan Quinn to the Matt Patricia man-to-man heavy scheme in Detroit. And now he's going to be playing a lot more, probably more zone than man, but more quarters, things like that. So I think Trufant is still an NFL-capable starting corner. I don't think it's ideal to have him as a number 1 corner. I think he's probably more of a low-end 2, maybe a third corner if you got a good nickel corner. But I still think he can start. So I don't hate this move at all. He did struggle with Detroit and struggled to be healthy. So maybe that was part of the reason he wasn't so great last year. I think he can be productive. I think he can be a number 2 corner. Given his contract, it's only a 1-year deal. I don't hate it at all. You were moving off of Fuller, which I don't think necessarily made a lot of sense money-wise. But you moved off Fuller, so you needed a replacement for him. You can't expect your second-year corner, Johnson, to be the number 1 or just to take that role on head first. So now that you have Johnson, Trufant, capable player, experienced player, can play in your scheme probably better than in Detroit's scheme. So you're expecting a little bit of a boost there, a little bit of productivity there. So I think it's a solid move. Nothing special, but he's a capable player. More on Trufant. He's probably a taller player. He's about 6-foot-ish tall. Again, experienced, I believe, in his early 30s. Yeah, I mean, he's just okay. I don't have really much else to say about him. Unless he returns to, his 2016, 2017 form, where he was maybe, a top 20 corner. That's kind of the best he's ever been. But I do think he can still be solid. So, let me know, Bears fans, what you think. Are you disappointed that the team moved on from Fuller? Are you disappointed in the current offseason? Do you like these defensive moves? Probably my favorite of them all was Otochu. And then I probably don't hate the Trufant move. Blackson, I'm the least familiar with, but I do feel he can be a nice little layer of depth to the defensive line. So let me know what you guys think and how you feel these three players will fit within your defense. All right. I did talk about Philip Lindsay. I like it. I like it. I don't think there's a lot to dislike. Yeah, their secondary is definitely worse. I don't disagree with that. It's definitely worse. I'm not saying it's the same. What about the 49ers? Have they done anything lately? I don't think they did anything this weekend. Of note, at least. I talked about their earlier moves, if you haven't checked that out. But I don't see anything on my list here. Do a mock draft? We're going to have some mock drafts on the Instagram. Steeler Nation says the Bears lost already after getting Dalton. Is David Johnson still on the Texans? Yes. All right, guys. I think that's it for tonight. Those are all kind of the big moves. If you enjoyed, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. If you missed anything, don't worry. These individual breakdowns will be up on the channel shortly. Probably tomorrow night-ish, I would expect. So, thanks guys for those of you that did join me live. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the support, especially lately. If you guys haven't, make sure you do check out the Discord. Link is in the description if you want to join the community, get notified for every video. The Discord's a great place to go. You could talk about the NFL, talk with other NFL fans within the BLV community, and even talk to me about some NFL things. I'm always in there too. So thanks guys for watching. Appreciate you, and we will see you very soon. Peace.